Talll Stories adaptation of the Canterville Ghost is back on stage this autumn, as this production mixes the classic Oscar Wilde short story with vaudevillian theatre. As it prepares to tour the UK to celebrate Talll Stories' 25th anniversary, I sat down with the wonderful Matt Jopling, who plays the comedian in the show. So, Matt, could you give us a little introduction to the show, what it's about, and who you play?
Sure. So the show we are doing is called The Canterville Ghost, based on the Oscar Wilde short story. I play the part of William Otis in the story of The Canterville Ghost, but we also have a framework where we play 4 vaudevillian performers, an illusionist, a psychic, a compere, and then a comedian, and I play the comedian.
Looking at the backstory of this show, you originally performed in this production back in 2018, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I was part of the original team that devised the show, and we took it to the Edinburgh Fringe in 2018 and then to Warwick Arts Centre over that Christmas. We were due to tour it a bit more extensively, but then you know what came along. And,
how does it feel performing this now after everything that's happened over the past 4 years? What's kind of changed? What feels a bit different or more poignant now?
I mean, the most obvious thing is the cast, because I'm only the one remaining cast member of the 4 of us that's back doing it, because, you know, it's been 4 years and people are doing different jobs and different things. So 3 new cast members has been a massive freshen up, and it's like it's a huge responsibility for them because the show is jam-packed with stuff. I mean, having to learn sleight of hand magic, mind reading, and singing and acting, and also, you know, you've got a lot on your plate, and we've rehearsed this in 3 weeks. Slightly easier for me because I've done it before, and it's been 4 years ago, but it's roughly still in my memory, still in my body somewhere.
Tucks away.
I mean, we'll find out. Our first show is tomorrow, so we'll see how it goes. But a new cast is always a great freshen up.
Yes.
And it's just lovely to take it out, because we worked so hard devising the show in 2018, and it really deserves a run that it didn't get back then, and it is going to get now, and hopefully it will have a life beyond this autumn as well. So,
talking about the vaudevillian acts, you learned ventriloquism specifically for this show, and I've seen it's a skill that you've carried on and used past the show. Why do you think that puppetry and theatre go so well together, both in general and specifically to this show?
It's a good question. I think there's, I mean, we did a lot of research into traditional forms of comedy, and ventriloquism and that form of puppetry was huge in its heyday back then. And obviously puppetry has evolved into so many different forms now. But I think it's still just as magnetic, particularly with an old Victorian puppet like the one we use in the show. There's something, you know, so organic and traditional about it. It's something that technology can't really infiltrate. It's just one person and a puppet, and watching the joy between the two. I mean, the whole running gag is obviously that I'm doing both voices, but the puppet has his own character and his own life in a way, and my goal is to make you forget that I'm doing both of them, and to just let the audience be absorbed in the fun that's going on stage. And I think it's not a lost art. It's not quite a lost art, but I think puppetry in the form of ventriloquism, you don't see it a lot, particularly in the UK. It's a bit more. It has a bit more of a life in the States, but it's nice to sort of try and do a little bit to keep that art form going. And it's a huge leap of faith in Talll Stories to let me have a go at it, considering I had no experience of it before. So huge courage on their part to say, yeah, go on, give it a go.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I've been thinking about, like, I've seen a lot of productions that have used puppetry, of course, like the big one was Warhorse years ago, and
Yeah.
now Amelie used some. Lion Witch and the Wardrobe has a lot in the West End at the moment. But yeah, you don't see a lot of ventriloquism anymore, do you?
No, there are a few big names. I mean, Paul Zerd and Nina Conti, but I think it was hugely popular. I mean, we were looking at the traditional forms of comedy. You had lots of slapstick routine, comedy songs. We played around with all those things, but ventriloquism kept circling back to me as a really interesting form of comedy, form of art. And I'm really glad I stuck with it. It certainly pushed me out of my comfort zone, which I think is always a good thing. And yeah, I hope people are entertained by it and look into it a bit more and find the performers that are doing it today, because it's quite a niche skill, but there's huge amounts of opportunity to play and have fun with it.
So you've worked with Talll Stories quite a few times. Obviously, you've previously performed this show with them. You also worked on Wild Creatures. What do you enjoy most about working with this company?
I love how much of a part of devising shows you can be with them. The two shows that I performed, I also developed and made with them. So it's just an extra layer of investment, and a lot of my sort of trainings around devising theatre and how do you make something, and whether it's improvisation in a room and collaborating with people and how best to tell a story, particularly something like Oscar Wilde. How do you translate those stories, which are over 100 years old now, to a modern day audience? And I love all those aspects of it. And we're really lucky at Talll Stories that, when we're devising, we have a big 6-week rehearsal periods. So there's time to really play around in the room, and just they hire good people, and they're a lovely company to work for.
Good people.
They look after their performers, and they've got this amazing new space at Islington Library. They're lovely. I mean, I've done a lot of theatre over the last couple of years, and coming back to a show like this and a company like this really feels like coming to my theatrical home in a way. And it's great that they're now expanding they've done a lot of work for children, a lot of productions and stories for children, but to expand out to an older age group is a really exciting new path for them.
So the Canterville Ghost blends a lot of like spooky horror and comedy elements together. What do you think makes these an interesting combination?
I think there are a lot of tropes that we can all associate with those genres, and we try and play on those somewhat. And in the theatre, you make use of big sound systems and all the lights, so we can lean into that a little bit, but we're also trying to keep true to our vaudevillian setup, so there's not a lot of modern references or anything like that. But I think the two go hand in hand. They both can be quite extravagant. You can be quite so Simon de Canterville is the lead, is the ghost in the Canterville Ghost, and he's almost like an old theatre lovey. So he's very dramatic, and that can lean itself into horror and into comedy quite nicely. So we try and play on the two things and merge them together when we can.
So what is the best part about taking a show like this onto a UK tour?
I think that, the different spaces always provide a good challenge, and getting it out to places that have still been deprived of theatre for a long time. It feels good to get back on the road. I personally, as an actor, I've not toured in a good few years. And it's exciting. Like this is our first venue here in Leeds. Got off the train this morning and had a real buzz about setting up camp in a theatre for a few nights, and I hope it's selling well. I think it is, and yeah, hopefully we can appeal to a broad range of audiences with a show like this.
Mm.
We've got, you know, fans of Oscar Wilde will know the story, fans of magic and illusion, fans of comedy, of live and original music. So hopefully there is something in it for everyone with a show like this, which should mean we get bums on seats, hopefully.
So looking at your list of skills, which we've already touched on a little bit, there's a lot of impressive stuff in there. You do ventriloquism, obviously. You have a wide range of accents that you can do, voice acting, various instruments. What is your favorite skill to show off and use within a show?
That's a good question. I think you have to be constantly like keep on your toes with your skills, and also just pushing myself. I think the ventriloquism certainly was a step in a new direction, and I think that's been the most rewarding. I've always played instruments and played in bands and things, and I set up a little voiceover booth in my house, as did pretty much every other actor out there during.
You saw people like going underneath their tables and such.
Yeah. Getting the duvets out, hanging them
yes.
on the wall. And for me, like the variety of is the spice of life, as they say. When I wouldn't want to just be touring a musical for ages, or just be doing commercial work, or, you know, I love the fact that I can do a show like this and then record an audio book for a month and then go and do something else, and then that for me is the most rewarding part of what I do. So I'd probably say I'm jack of all trades, master of none. Like I probably should just focus on one thing and be really, really good at it. But I like having many strings to the bow.
So what do you hope that audiences will take away from the Canterville Ghost?
Ultimately, I hope they're entertained. I think that's what traditional vaudevillian music hall was about. Going out, having a good, fun night of fun, entertainment, song. But having said that, within that, there are also some things to really think about in this, in the story itself and the way we framed it. So ultimately, to come away having had a really good night, watched a real variety of performance and skills, but also to come away with a little bit to think about as well afterwards.
You can catch the Canterville Ghost at all of these locations as it tours the UK this autumn.